This presentation will introduce you to ServiceNow. Our agenda is to give you a tour of the interface and not get into all of our business processes, but to let you know how the software runs. We'll talk to you about all the different parts of the software, the banner, the application navigator, and the different types of content that you'll find, forms, lists, and home pages. We'll also talk about some additional features. To get to ServiceNow, you go to servicenow.asu.edu and log in with your ASU Right ID and password. If you're part of the technology office, you'll automatically have access, and you can talk to your manager about changing your access if you need to. If you'd like to practice before going into production, you can go to asutest.service-now.com, sign in with your ASU Right ID and password. This is what the interface looks like: the application navigator, the banner, and the content area. We'll talk about each one of these individually. First, let's run through some quick vocabulary. ServiceNow has data tables. Those data tables each contain records. The records each have fields in them. ServiceNow uses forms to display those records to you, and that lets you see and edit the records. It also gives you lists of records so that you can see them all together, and you can do all sorts of filtering and sorting of the lists as well. We also have a thing called applications, and those are groups of links called modules that allow you to do things like create new records and see different filtered lists of records. Over the top of the interface is the banner. It'll have your name on the left. When you're in production, the banner is maroon. When you're in any of the non-production environments, it'll be gold. In the far right-hand corner is a gear icon. If you click on that, then you'll have all the controls that are listed there. The application navigator is how you launch different items within ServiceNow. It's separated into applications, which are groups of modules, and modules are links. Typically, they're forms that you can use to edit records, or they're different filtered lists of the different items that are there. At the top of the navigator is a text field. When you type a word into that text field, the navigator will only show you the applications and modules that have that word associated with it. If you click on the star next to any item in the navigator, that makes it a favorite, and then if you click on the star at the top, it will show you only the items that you've marked as a favorite. The little navigator at the top will show you some predefined clusters of applications and lets you collapse or expand all the applications or refresh the navigator. There's a global search that sits at the very top right-hand corner of ServiceNow. Typing something in there and clicking on the magnifying glass will bring together a list of all of the records that have that particular search term in it, and it will gather them together and group them according to different types. A form is where you're going to go to see, create, or edit data in a record. It's full of fields. There are sections at the bottom that are available through tabs, and you can expand and collapse the different fields by clicking on the plus and minus signs. At the top, there's a title bar. Starting at the left, clicking on the back arrow will take you to the previous page that you were looking at. The hamburger button will open up with context menus depending on your access to the tool and what you're looking at. The next control is to add a tag. So if you have a particular record that you're looking at, you can tag it so that you can collect them all together and look at them together later on. Depending on what you're looking at and what your access is, there'll be several buttons on the toolbar that will let you do things to the form. To the right of that, there's a paperclip where you can add attachments, switch between tab and non-tab format, launch an email about the record that you have going now, and look at the next or previous record in the data table. Some fields are required. They'll be marked with a red asterisk. When you fill it in, then the asterisk turns gray, and you can see that there. There are two types of fields in the forms. There are standard fields that accept all values, and then there are reference fields, and those require data that's already in the data tables. So you can click on the magnifying glass to search for it, or start to type in the field, and it will help you find the value that you're looking for. Once you have a value in one of the reference fields, you'll have a more info icon. If you hover over it, you'll get a pop-up that will show you the information on the field. Some of the fields have locks on them. If you click on the lock, it will show you more controls. In this particular case, we're looking at the work notes list field, and it's a watch list so that anytime someone puts anything in a work note on this particular record, then the people in this field will get an email. There are all the controls there listed on the right. You can add yourself to the list, remove items, add and remove multiple items, lock the list so that other things can't be added to it. You can search for people that are already in the ServiceNow database, and you can also enter email addresses that may not already be in the ServiceNow database. Next, we're going to talk about lists. These are records in the table where each field is represented by a different column. Let's look at the title bar. The hamburger button lets you use predefined filters to filter your list. You can group records together. You can change the maximum number of records that are shown on each page, and you can refresh the list. If you look through the list and you don't see the record you're looking for, you can use the new button to create a new record, and that'll take you to a form. On the right-hand side, there's a button that will show you the latest activity for that particular data table, and you can also page through the list by using the controls at the far right of the title bar. In the middle of the title bar is a very powerful feature, which is a go-to search function. You can tell ServiceNow what type of field you're looking for and then type it into the search field there. If you're using text, you can use an asterisk before a number or a text for the contain search, and only the records that match your search criteria will show in the list. The list will come up and it will show a set of columns. Each column is a different field. You can change that by clicking on the gear icon, and then you can move items from the data table in the available list over to the selected list by using the add key. You can also remove columns by using the remove key, and then as you move them up and down the selected column, then they'll move left to right on the list. These changes are per user and they won't affect other users. If you click on the little hamburger button and the column heading, you'll get an extra list where you can sort the list according to that particular column, either A to Z or Z to A. You can group items together within the list by what's in that particular column. You can create bar and pie charts, and you can also export the list. You can also click on the magnifying glass in the far left-hand side of the toolbar there, and that will bring up search fields. Anything you type in any one of those search items, that will filter the list according to what you've typed. Anytime you hover over a reference icon, like we said before, you'll get a pop-up that'll show you the record. Clicking on that icon will take you to that record. If you right-click on any field in a list, you'll get a context menu. Show Matching will filter the list and show you only the records that have an identical item in that particular field. Filtering Out will do the opposite of that, so it will show you all of the records that don't have that in that particular column. You can copy the link to your clipboard, and you can also tag it. And if that particular record is one that you need to take care of, you can click on Assign to Me. As you filter the list, breadcrumbs get created across the top of the list. You can back out of the filter if you filtered too far, for example. Clicking on any item will delete all of the items to the right of that. If you click on the little greater than sign that separates the different breadcrumbs, it will take out the item immediately to the right of the greater than arrow. You can also create filters by clicking on the little down arrow next to the breadcrumb. That will open up the condition builder. So to create a filter, what you do is you select the item in the first field, the operator in the middle, and then the value for it. You can add and or statements in order to make a more complicated filter. Then click on the Run to invoke that filter for the list. If you want to save that, you can click on the Save button, and that will add it to the list of filters. To use a save filter, you click on the hamburger button on the toolbar, and then click on Filters, and the saved filters that you've created will be listed there, and then you can invoke them. So this is the home page. It has content based on your access to ServiceNow. You can create new content. You can edit that home page by clicking on the plus sign in the upper left-hand corner and adding new content. You can also move things around on the home page by dragging them from one spot to another on the home page. If you add content or move content, ServiceNow automatically creates a new home page for you, and you can switch between the home pages by using the control in the upper right. Click Switch to Page, and then you can go to your home page, and you can also create other new pages. So you can have several home pages if you need. You may want to adjust your email notifications and fine-tune how many times ServiceNow emails you depending on what's going on in the system. So in the Application Navigator, if you find the Self-Service application and go to My Profile, click on Notification Preferences, and then you can set when ServiceNow should email you depending on what happens within the system. And be able to tag an object. If you're in a list, you can right-click on any item and say Assign Tag, and it'll bring up all of the different tags that you've used, and you can click on any one of those tags and it will collect those records for you in the content pane so that you can see them all in one place. So that's a quick review of the interface for the ServiceNow tool. More training is available at links.asu.edu/UTO training. Look for the ServiceNow training page, and that'll give you access to more training about the different processes that use ServiceNow. If you have questions, feel free to email us at utotraining@asu.edu, and we'll get you in touch with the right people.